Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at another dash cam. So this is the ARPHA D24. So this is a dual channel dash cam. So it does have the front facing camera as well as a rear facing 1080p camera as well. The front facing camera is 4K. Now the main sort of selling point of this particular dash cam is the fact that it does have built-in GPS. So it can do your speed tracking, location tracking, all that kind of stuff. So in the event of an accident, you have a little bit more data in terms of who was in the right and who was in the wrong, and hopefully it should help you out worst case scenario. So firstly, we'll do a quick unboxing, take a look at what you actually get in the pack. It does have a smart app, so I will show you some of the details in terms of adding it, all that kind of stuff a little later on, and then finally we'll take a look at some of the samples towards the end as well. Opening up the box, firstly the presentation is actually quite nice. So it does come with its own branding just there. This, I'm guessing, is going to be the main dash cam. So you can see that just there, and it does have a nice big display. On the bottom you have nothing. On the right hand side you have the power button. On the top you have a USB-C port. You have the mount, which I do like, the fact that you can actually disconnect this from the mount. I've had a few dash cams recently where they're very slimline, but the one thing that I did dislike about them was that they don't have a mount that actually disconnects. So there's no easy way of taking the dash cam off. You do also have the AV in for the rear camera. On the top, I'm guessing these are some speaker vents and possibly just some normal venting as well. On the side you do have the TF card slot, and it looks like, yes, so it does already come with a TF card installed, and that is a 64 gig card that's already pre-installed. Finally, on the side you do also have the mic, and that is what it looks like from the front. So we'll drop that to a side. So what else do you get? You get the actual mount, and this looks pretty slimline. We'll just quickly connect this up. So it clicks in quite easily. Yeah, so it just clicks in, and then you can slide it off just by pushing there, and then it will disconnect. It does actually have some metal prongs, so I'm not sure whether the GPS antenna is actually located inside here. So that is the mount installed. Take a look at what else we get. So you do also get a USB-A to USB-C cable. You get a very small power brick with their own branding and some nice carbon fiber. So I'm not sure that's genuine, but it's a nice touch. What power rating do we have on here? So we have 5 volts 2 amps, and that will connect onto this, and that is your main power cord. You do also get a trim removal tool as well as some stickers for tidying up the cabling. It looks like you get an additional mount, and here is that rear camera. So no, this looks like it just installs as it is. Once again, you have a little bit of carbon fiber sort of pattern on there, and that would clip into this side of the actual camera as such. This is very similar to a lot of the other dash cams that I've tested. So it does have this sort of disconnecting 3-prong or 4-prong I should say connector, and that's pretty standard on most of the 1080p rear cameras that I've actually tested. Once again, it has a little bit of branding just there. On the lens itself you have a little protector, which I'll take off a little later, and then, as I say, this should rotate. Yes, it does. So once you've stuck this on, you can rotate this. I believe this is going to be an internal one only. I don't believe this is going to be weather sealed, so I don't think this is for external use. You literally just stick this in your rear windscreen, and then you change the angle accordingly. What else do we get? So we get an extra little sticker pad which goes with that rear camera. You do get some of the anti-static sheets, and I'm guessing these 2 smaller ones are going to be for the rear camera, and then they normally give a few for the front facing camera as well. So the way these work is you stick this to the windscreen, and then you stick the mount onto this, and that just gives you a really strong adhesion, as well as making it quite easy to actually remove as well if you did need to. The final thing in the box is the user manual. Once again, hopefully we shouldn't really need to use this if the app and the actual dash cam is laid out and quite straightforward to use. And finally, you do get an extra sticky pad for the main mount as well. Okay, so that's everything that you get in the box. So you get the main dash cam, you get the mount, you get the rear camera, you get some extra sticky pads for each of those. You do get a couple of anti-static sheets, 2 for the rear camera and 2 for the front facing camera. You get the main power cord as well as the USB 12-volt connector that's just there. You get an extra mount, and finally you get the trim removal tool as well as some sticky pads, and these are just to help you tidy up the cabling. So that's everything that you get in the pack. Next we'll take a look at the app and setup. Okay, so let's go about setting up the ARPHA D24 in their app. So this is the app. As you can see, as soon as you open the app and you're near the device, it'll actually prompt you to connect via Bluetooth. So hit connect. The Wi-Fi network is already enabled on the camera. I'll show you that later in the video in terms of how to turn that on and off. You hit join and it's connected. So that's probably the easiest dash cam I've ever set up. And there we go. So right now on screen what we have the rear camera, where you can see my hand now. We have the main camera, and you have a few different modes, so you can press that button there. Okay, so it won't let you do that on the if you just stop recording and then it'll allow you to switch between the modes. Okay, so for some reason it doesn't let you do it on the phone, but it does let you do this on the screen itself. I'll show you the different modes. So that's just the rear camera, that's the front facing camera, and that's the front facing camera full screen, and that's with the rear camera as the smaller screen and the front facing camera as the bigger screen. You can press the little expand icon to make it full screen. If we stop and come into the settings, let's take a look at what we get in the app. So this is very similar to what you've got on the camera itself. So your recording is 4K plus 1080p for your rear. For your loop recording, you can choose what duration you want each video to be. You can turn on or turn off wide dynamic range. Same with the audio recordings and video stamps. Your date format, I think we will have it as the British one, which is day, month, year. So most of these settings are replicating what's on the camera. It just lays it out in a more easier way to digest. But I'll show you on the camera going through all of these as well. Okay, so here we are in the car and the unit is now installed. So as you can see, first you have to put one of these anti-static sheets onto the actual windscreen itself, and then you can stick the mount on. Now, one thing I do really like about this particular one is how quick you can actually remove it from the car. So say for example you want to just change some settings, or you want to take the memory card out and you don't want to end up losing it. What you can do is, if you just unplug it and just push it to the side, the whole thing actually comes off because of that mount design. And let me see if I can actually show you. Yeah, so that's what's left. You do have a spare one of those just in case you break that or you lose it or anything like that. And then to put it back on, all you do is you just line up those two little slots again and then push it across and it locks in. So that's how the unit is actually installed. What I'll do is I'll just power it up or plug the cables in and just quickly show you the menus. Okay, so here we have the unit on. So you have a few menu options in terms of the screen itself. So if you just click on it and you hit that top right one, it'll switch between them. So right now I've got the rear camera small and the main camera slightly bigger, as you can see there. If you click it again, it switches to the rear camera. If you do it again, it'll switch to the opposite way. So it'll put the front camera there and the rear camera more emphasized, and then the final one just boots back to the first one again. All of these other ones are pretty self-explanatory, so I don't really need to go into too much detail in terms of them. You can turn the Wi-Fi on and off, you can start and stop recordings, you can do playback, you can choose to have the recording audio on and off, and then the settings are pretty much the same regardless of whether you use the phone or the actual unit itself. But obviously it'll be a lot easier to do it on the phone because you can actually see all of these at once, whereas in this you're kind of scrolling through.
Recording started.
And as you can see, as soon as you power it on, the recording does start. It gives you a little bit of details just there in terms of your SSID and your password, and you can go in the settings and change all of that if you choose to do so. And then in that top right hand corner, it gives you details in terms of what you're recording. So right now it's 4K at the front, 1080p at the rear, and I do have the rear camera connected, so I will be showing you samples of that coming up. But overall thoughts is it works pretty well. The picture quality isn't as good as I would have thought it would be, but just because of how it's mounted and the fact that this doesn't actually suffer as much from reflections as some of the other dash cams that I've tested. Overall it's pretty good. It does a good job, and it's got some decent features built into it as well. We'll take a look at some of the samples both front and rear. Okay, and here you can see the rear camera installed. So as you can see, it does once again have one of the anti-static sheets, a smaller one for the rear camera, so you will know which one's which, and then the camera just sticks on. The whole camera, this section does rotate all the way around, so once you've got it mounted you can actually change where you want it. The reason I actually mounted it so far down was because I was trying to see whether that actually helps with reflections and whether it cuts down on some of the reflections that you end up catching. But yeah, we'll see from the actual samples how well it does. I think both of them did a pretty decent job in terms of overall HDR. I just think that the picture quality itself struggles a little in comparison to some of the 4K images I've seen. But yeah, we'll take a look at them. Okay, so coming on to the actual video sample. So firstly, we'll take a look at the front-facing camera. So straight away, I've actually figured out what it is about the image that I don't like. So overall, the image itself doesn't look too bad. The problem comes from the actual frame rate. So I've said this many times that anything like a security camera, like a dash cam, it needs to record at a faster frame rate in order to capture details and just have better stability in terms of the image whenever you've got motion. Now this particular dash cam is recording at 25 FPS for this front facing camera, and yeah, as you can see, you end up with a lot of jitter, you end up with a lot of almost vibrations from the camera, which is strange because the mounting mechanism and everything about it is very stable, and even the way it was set up, there wasn't any wobble or anything. And these roads, whilst yeah there are some pretty big potholes every now and then, the overall road itself is relatively smooth. So it is quite strange that it has so much issues with vibrations on this particular unit. The other thing, obviously, that low frame rate means that until you get very close and until a vehicle stops, you're not really going to be able to read number plates. So as you can see in these instances, that lorry in front of me, who actually does some very dodgy maneuvers later on, yeah, you can't really focus on the number plate of any vehicle until you slow down and you almost come to a stop. Okay, so coming on to the rear camera, so this is for this same sort of stretch of road, same clip. I did cut a little bit out on the other one, so I'll probably do that on this one as well. But yeah, you get a very similar thing. So the low frame rate, same thing again, 1920 by 1080 at 25 FPS. Obviously this image will probably get upscaled to 4K because I upload in 4K, and this particular video is actually being shot in 60 FPS, which will just make it look even worse with the choppy frame rate. But yeah, this is to give you an idea in terms of what sort of image you can expect, and this is with me having mounted it as low as possible, so you're not catching as much of the boot and it's more what's behind you essentially. Even then, yeah, the image is quite soft. Until the vehicles stop, you're not really going to be able to read number plates. That in itself isn't a deal breaker because, like I said in the unboxing part, the main idea behind dash cams, especially front and rear, is to give you a better understanding of what's happened, and you can see that from the image anyway. You don't need to be able to read number plates crystal clear in order for you to see that. What would help, however, is a faster frame rate, and that's something that I think this camera could probably do with, and it would definitely improve the picture quality if you just had double the frame rate. So this is shot at 25 for UK. Obviously we use the PAL system, so 25 and 50, or if it had been either 30 and 60, 60 FPS I think is where it needs to be for you to get nice crispy video for anything to do with surveillance, be that, as I said, a security camera or a dash cam. And in these instances, yeah, it has just rained, so the image itself is going to be slightly worse because of that. The car itself wasn't clean either, so you are catching some of these sort of dirt from the rear windscreen, and you also, for some reason, catching what almost looks like the top of the bottom of that static sheet, which is strange because I did actually place this exactly where the sort of drawing showed you're supposed to stick the camera, but you can see that top portion of the image, it is being obstructed by that. So what I would say is don't necessarily go by that. Install that wherever you think you need it, and then stick the camera almost to the very bottom edge or the top edge, depending on how you've stuck that sheet on. I just didn't want to have this obstructing my rear view, which is why I didn't install it higher up. Yeah, this method doesn't seem to have paid off, but you still get an idea in terms of the overall quality. Okay, so in this next section, I've done my best to try and synchronize the video clips, and I've put them side by side. The one thing I do like about this particular dashcam is the way it saves the files. So it does save the files just as MP4, so you can just click into it and open the file straight away, and you're also able to share the file as well. With some of the other dashcams that I've actually tested, the files actually save as .ts files, which plays back audio, but in order to access the video you then need to convert the files manually, and most of those conversions will usually end up decreasing the quality slightly. Side by side, it gives you an idea in terms of, say for example, you've been in an accident like that truck probably will end up in at some point, the way he's driving. But yeah, say for example you've been in an accident, this is giving you context in terms of what's happened, and yeah, you can see that that truck is swerving all over the place. Yeah, distracted from the point. The other thing that it does do is, even though you can't see it on these screens here, when I show the clip of just the front facing camera or the rear camera on its own, you will see that it does record the speed data. You can see the bottom of the rear camera section there where you can see the GPS data in terms of location and stuff as well. Overall, I think it does a pretty decent job, and yes, obviously it does record audio. I've just disabled it because all it is radio, and you just won't be able to hear what I'm saying if I had that playing. Overall, it's a pretty good package. It's not the quality that I would have wanted. If it had better frame rate, I think this package would be a lot better straight away, but as it is, it still does a pretty decent job. And for anybody out there that's looking for a front and rear camera setup, then this is definitely a very good option for you. As always, I will have links in the description below, so if you're looking to purchase, I would appreciate if you do use any affiliate links that I do post, because it does help the channel out. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and turn on notifications, as I do have more videos coming, and in particular I have another dashcam review that's going to be quite special. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them or forward them on to the sellers. And until the next one, thanks very much for watching.